outside my studio feeding the birds and looking at all the tracks that have been left. It snowed last night. In the snow, it looks like a highway of cottontail rabbit prints. And then squirrels, two kinds of squirrels. There's raccoons, there's a fisher cat that I've seen. I'd like to show you how to draw a cousin of the cottontail rabbit, the star of the animal Santa. They are a magnificent creature, and I would love to draw one for you. So please, I'd like to come into my studio with me. I have a little surprise for you. I'm looking forward to introducing you to Little Spoo, my pet rabbit, who looks a lot like Little Snowshoe Rabbit, just like in my book. Time to paint my little bunny. First, I want you to meet him. Little Spoo, I'm coming to get you. Where are you? Spoo, hi, come. Come, little bunny. Are you in the corner? Hi, what a good little bunny. What a good little bunny. Oh, you didn't want to get picked up that time, did you? Oh, here he is. So this is a domesticated rabbit, and I picked him out because he had the markings of a snowshoe rabbit, he's much smaller, of course, but in the book, he's the little brother, so I wanted a small bunny. He's half dwarf and half Dutch. So his ears are kind of grayish with little black edges to them, just like the varying hair or snowshoe rabbit. It's called both things. And he's got brown eyes, and he's a very friendly boy, aren't you? I think he has a good life. We pay lots of attention to him. So, Little Spoo, you're going to go back into your little place you live, and I'm going to draw you. Bye-bye. Okay, there you go. In you go. Good boy. I'm glad you met Little Spoo, because he's the main character of my book, The Animal Santa. And he was a little bit of a challenge, but a lot of fun to draw. And I'd like to teach you how to draw a rabbit, a snowshoe rabbit. I'm going to it's almost going to be like a snowman, because I'm going to make this rabbit standing up on his hind legs. And I will start with making where the head of the snowman would be is going to be an egg shape. And then the middle circle will be a little bit bigger, still kind of that egg shape. But the last one will be as if the egg is standing on end. Now I'm going to change this around a little bit, but that's how I'm starting. And if it slants a little bit this way, that's a good thing. Because the good thing about rabbits is they have body language that really expresses what they're feeling. I wanted it to look like a wild rabbit, but of course he talks with his friends and he wears clothes. So he's kind of a mixture of having human-like characteristics, and he is a rabbit. But he's not a cartoony rabbit. And one of the postures that they do, and Little Spoo does this all the time, is he sits up if he wants to see far away, and you can picture him in a big field of snow, and he wants to peek up over and find out how close his a good place to hide would be, or whatever he's looking at. And that's what I have with this picture. And the other thing that's great about rabbits is they have these long ears, and the way that they hold them will also help describe how they're feeling. The thing that's difficult about rabbits is that their mouth is kind of under their chin, so you don't really see it when you're looking at the rabbit from the front. Now this rabbit is going to be from the side, and now I'm going to modify the snowman shape. I think I'll start with the ears, and I'm not going to put them way in the very back. I'm going to put them a little bit in the center, and they're attached a little bit lower down. And the ear can be swiveled around. So almost any way you draw it is a way a rabbit could possibly hold it. And the outside corner kind of comes in like that. So that's his head with his ears up. And then I'm going to work on his head in a minute. But now this part is I'm going to connect, because the back of his head is quite flat, and then it almost looks like he has a dress on, and that is going to come all the way down, and you'll see that his shape is more rabbit-like now. It kind of comes in a little bit at the bottom, and that's where his tail's going to be. And then this part will be where his legs attach. And they're not that long, and this is where his elbow would be. And the little foot is like hanging down in a relaxed manner. And then maybe he'll have the other one up as if he's saying hi to somebody. And that's probably something a rabbit wouldn't do in real life. But isn't that what makes it fun, is trying to put in all these ideas into these wild animals so that they become characters. But they do have quite a strong little chest here, and that's very fluffy. And so I'm going to connect this down, and then the foot, which supports him, is very, very big in the snowshoe rabbit. And that's why how they got their name, because the snow can be very light and fluffy, especially up north where these rabbits live. It can be very light and fluffy, but these big feet will hold them up just like a snowshoe would hold up a person. So he can scamper across the snowdrifts and bound across big expanses without sinking in and going all the way down and not being able to move quickly. So he skitters on top of the snow. And then here's his little tail. And, I should have shown you a little spruce tail because it's longer than you would think. But they hold it upright like that so you don't see how long it is. And I'm going to make a little line here that shows where his leg is. And that will be all covered up with fur. Now here comes his head, which is probably the more important, because his eye is actually up high on his head, and it's a little bit almond-shaped, and we can work on that because, as I've said before in some of my other videos, the eye is the most important part of your picture because it expresses what you're feeling. And so I'll come back to the eye and work on it. And his head is a little bit flat on the top, and then his little nose comes out like that. And you can kind of see his mouth, and he's smiling. And then a rabbit, even though he has a form like a dog or a cat, he's got this thick fur, which covers him almost like he's got a costume on, because he has to survive in the cold winter. And this is a varying hair. That's the other name for snowshoe rabbit, which means that in the summer, he turns brown because he needs to camouflage himself. He needs to blend into the background. So let's say it's fields up in the northern part of Canada or the Arctic, and there are maybe brown and green grasses, and so that brown color will fade right in and predators wouldn't see him. And then as fall comes, probably September, they'll start getting white patches in their fur, and then they'll be pure white by the time snow falls. So now I'm going to work on his eye. And let's see, what could he be thinking about? I think he's like looking over and perhaps seeing his big brother, who they're great friends. And so all the mammals have like a little line around their eye, which is just a little bit of skin before the fur starts. And he'll be looking like anticipating. So I'll make almost like a little eyebrow affair up there. So he looks like he's having, looking forward to something. And then all these little lines are going to represent his fur. Now they have kind of a poofiness right around their mouth, and that's where the whiskers come out. You could even draw a couple of lines there. So there's a little nose. It's kind of pinkish there. His ears. The back of his head is flat, and then this fur kind of piles because it's very thick, and his little chin. And then right in here, you get some of that longer fur. And he'll be looking maybe up and away. There's his pupil, and I'm leaving a little white space in his pupil so that it shows the sparkle in his eye. It will show how the light reflects. And use some more of these strokes to indicate fur. And now, because this rabbit is white, I'll be showing you a lot of shading, because what I could do in color, I'll have to do in black and white, because that's the color he is when I'm drawing him. And his tail, And now he's starting to take shape. He's standing right up there. A rabbit has quite a small head, but because he's a character in my book and I want to show his expressions, I've made his head a little bit bigger than it would be in life. Now, the rabbit I showed you, little Spoo, is domesticated rabbit. And so the wild rabbit even has a smaller head, but they do have the same coloration. So I've got blue and brown, and I'm mixing them, and I'm just going to go all around the edge of his body, and that will create a three-dimensional look. Maybe under his chin, because that goes in, around his eye, definitely. Oops, I've got to get that color just right. It can't be too blue, it can't be too brown. So I have a paper towel that I use to get, if I get too much water in my brush. So there's the part that's like the little muzzle. That's poofy. And then here's where his ear comes down. And the ear that's furthest away, I'll shade in, because that will make it look like it's far away. Now here's something that you might not expect. I'm not using a color. I'm just using water to blend in some of those that shading. So who would have thought that you could use water as a color? And that will blend it in a little bit and give more of a realistic look and save some steps when I'm doing that shading. Now this whole, oops, that was too blue. I need to put brown in it. This whole foot is going to be in the look further away. This is on the other side of the bunny. And it's because I've gotten that a little too dark, I'm going to use that same trick of putting a little water on it and taking away some of the paint. I was pressing hard with a paintbrush there to get that look. Actually, that came out really well. So when you draw, it's always experimenting a little bit, and you can't get too upset if you're a perfectionist. If it doesn't look just perfect the first time, because you're always adjusting and making things better. And sometimes the best ideas come from accidents. Sometimes you're trying to fix the accident, or sometimes the accident says, oh, I don't know why I didn't think of doing that. So down here is this little tummy. So we've really enjoyed having our very first rabbit. And I was very surprised to know that they're not supposed to have too many carrots and greens. They're supposed to have their bunny food. And in the wild, rabbits don't eat very many carrots. They eat bark and hay. Our bunny gets lots of nice fresh hay that we get at the feed store. And once in a while, he gets a dandelion leaf if it's summer, but he does not get carrots. So he's just about filled in. Now I've used marker to draw his outline so that the camera could see it. But if I were drawing this for a book, then I would erase away all those lines that kind of helped me. They were my roadmap. And now it's kind of fun to draw some of the other colors in. So he has brown eyes. So I'm going to find a deep, rich brown to color in his eyes. And a little trick that I can do is take off a little bit of that paint, and it will look a little bit more luminous, which just means shiny. And then the little area around his eye, I think I'm going to make a little bit of a darker gray. It would be maybe pink in a domesticated rabbit, but darker gray. It almost looks like the wild rabbit has on eye makeup. And then, of course, we have the fun part, which is right on the edge of tips of his ears. It's quite black, and it comes down a little bit. Not on the inside so much, but the outside of his ears, which would be back here, are of a darker gray. And also I noticed he had a little gray right here on his tail, and maybe a little bit there going down his back. And his nose, I think I'll make his nose a kind of a pinkish, very, very light pink nose. And maybe a little bit in the inside of his ear, you can see the light shining through, because that skin is really, oh, that's way too much. That skin is really thin, so you could actually have light shining through it. Oh, he's coming out pretty well. Oh, and it's really important to show that he's not floating in the air. It's a mistake everybody makes. Well, not mistake, but he doesn't want to be floating in the air. He wants to be on a nice snowdrift. So I'll use my water to even that out a little bit. And maybe I'll even color in that little foot there. So he's, oh, we can't forget the whiskers. That's like, for a bunny, that's a very important thing. So he has very, very thin whiskers. They're very not thick like a cat's. He has a few hairs coming out here. And you can imagine at night when they're out scouting around that they use those whiskers almost like feelers. So now an artist always needs to sign their work. So I will sign Jan Brett, and I hope you do that too, because every time I draw a picture, I hope the next one's going to be a little bit better, and practicing is what helps. And before you, maybe this will give you time to catch up, I would like to show you some of these beautiful boxes that you'll see in the border of Animal Santa, and they're made from porcupine quills, and they smell so good. They're made, they have sweetgrass, is this part here, and so, oh, it just smells divine. And then inside is birch bark. And then these are porcupine quills that have been dyed by different roots and flowers and bark to create these beautiful colors. And these are made by Native Americans. And this one is made by, let's see, what is her name? Lorraine Basito. And she is a wonderful, wonderful artist. And there are very few people who know how to make this technique. You can see in this one, it's got all this beautiful weaving on the side, and that's porcupine quills. And in the olden days, Native Americans used that to adorn boxes, or they could even put it on clothes, because there's another technique where the porcupine quill is flattened out, and then it is embroidered onto in the clothes, and they're just absolutely beautiful. I saw them at the Peabody Museum at Harvard, and I was very inspired to go along with Snowshoe Rabbit to have this beautiful artwork that was inspired by Native Americans. Thank you very much for watching, and have fun drawing your very own Snowshoe Rabbit.